Today we're going to be installing this Mansfield Pro shower base. The Pro shower base is unique in one way, is that it does not have to be set into a bed of mortar. However, it does need to be level. So before we can even think about setting this down on the floor, there's a few things that we need to do first. One of them is to make sure that our floor is level. We need to make sure that our walls are plumb, and we need to make sure that our walls are flat. So we're going to get started by making sure that our floor is level. Let's take a look. This is the area that the shower base will be going, and it is not perfectly level. I already have my James Hardy backer board down with hydro defense, and I tried to get it as perfectly level as I could, and it's really close, but it's not perfect. So we're going to get in here with a little bit of mortar, and we are going to make this surface perfect. The shower base has a foam pad underneath the bottom of it, and that is what it sits on and what supports it. That's why it does not need to be set into a wet mortar bed. So we're going to use a little bit of mortar to get this floor nice and flat. We are off a little bit more there, so I'm just going to work on getting some areas level and then work it all out from there. So I have a little bit of difference from side to side than I do straight across. So I'll probably wind up across here with a layer of mortar almost the whole way, because I have a big difference there. So I'm going to get some mortar mixed up, and we'll get going. I've mixed up just a little bit of mortar. I've put tape on the bottom of my levels to help keep the levels clean, and we are just going to start in this corner right here. The mortar, I've mixed it up a little bit looser than you would for laying bricks or cement blocks, but we're just going to get a little bit spread out right here, feather it out, and see how that looks across here. That is perfect. So I'm going to work it back a little bit along this way and see what we get through there. I'll smooth this out just a little bit more, and we'll be in good shape. And then we'll work off of this. That's nice. Now I'm going to get this guy in here and see what that's done to me in this direction. And that's going to cause me to put a little thin layer of mortar all the way down. I'm just a little bit low down here on this far end, so I'm going to get some mortar down there until this is level. Then my plan is just to kind of let this set up a little bit and come back in and fill in the areas once I've got all of my area level. It does not need very much to get level down here. Let's see if that is adequate. And that is looking really good. Now I'm going to do the same thing here because I know that this corner is low as well. So I need the same thing, just very little over here. See what we've got. I am a little high here. That is looking really good. Okay, I couldn't be happier with that. Now we're going to do the same thing here. Check it this way. And that is money. So now I just kind of need to fill these areas in. I've got a little more mortar mix here, so I'm just going to work back here a little bit. And basically this is where I need to be. So I'm going to go ahead and get this a little bit filled in, and we'll come back and take a look. Okay, I've finished putting the mud down, and it doesn't need to be the entire size of the shower base itself, because the foam is not the entire size. So just so long as that foam is sitting on the surface, that's all I really need. Once we secure it to the walls, then it'll be secure and level. Everything here is looking really good. Once it firms up a little bit more, we'll get the level on it, and I'll show you exactly what we got going on. While I'm waiting for this to dry, I'm going to get some 2x4s cut for this back wall. My mortar bed is almost dry. It's firm. I could probably step on it if I wanted to, but I'm going to hold off on that for a few more minutes. The next thing we want to do is check our studs. We need plumb studs. I'm going to tile this, and what you don't want is one wall leaning back or forward and the other one not, because then your tile will be tight at the bottom, but as you get to the top, you're going to start having this gap, and you're going to have to shift tile, or you're just going to have a big gap. So you need to make sure that all your walls are plumb. It's going to make your tile installation clean. So when we put the level on these studs, the bottom of the wall is actually bowed out probably about 1/4 of an inch, it looks like to me, somewhere in that neighborhood. And this wall is not flat. So we need to correct that, and we're going to do that by sistering on some studs. I have a stud right here that I've already cut to length, and that is what I'm going to put in here. And I will be able to not only set this plumb, but I'll be able to straighten the wall, which is the next thing we're going to take a look at right now. So I have here a piece of 3/4 inch plywood that I cut down to the length of this wall, 5 feet basically. And I have a good nice factory edge on it right here. So what I want to do is, in various places, set this across this wall and see what the studs are like if there's any humps or if there's anything missing. So my biggest problem is down here at this end. I am a ½ inch away from touching that stud. It would be really bad. So I couldn't even begin to attach my cement board to that for my tile because it would probably snap it when I tried to screw it in down there. And it's always better to make sure that your walls are flat before you put your cement board on. To try and fix that with mortar is going to be a nightmare. So I'm going to get you a little closer so you can see exactly what's going on. And then when we sister these studs on, we're going to fix all of that. So I'm touching here. I'm not touching here. I'm touching right here. And I'm touching right here. Here's where I'm a ½ inch away. If I was to turn this in, you see how far away I move from everything? I'm almost 3 inches away from that stud over there. So it's obvious that I cannot work off of this side. I can't start with this side. I have to start with this side. So this would be the very first stud that I put in. Then I'm going to set my shower base in here, and then we are going to get a baseline for this stud way over here, and then we will be setting the rest of them using this sheet of plywood right here. I'm not positive that that's exactly where that stud's going to go, but it's nice and plumb right now. So now I'm just going to come down here with my my plywood gauge and see what I've got. And this is mostly for the base of the shower. I want to make sure that it's going to clear everything that's here. And it is, because I know that this one is going to stick out further. So if I have room, and I think I do, I might tap this one in just a little further. I'll get this one secured, then I'm going to get the shower base back in here, and then we'll come back and take a look. The 2x4 that I've put in has a slight crown to it. If the 2x4s that you're using, and it's hard to find them perfect, has a slight crown to it, always put the crown out. Put a screw into the stud next to it, use your flat bar, hook that screw, and push this back. I only need to push it back a little bit, not much, and drive your screw in. Now we should be nice and flat. Let's take a look. Indeed, we are. I'm very happy with that. So now let's get that shower base set in here, and then we can get this other stud in place. I've got my shower base sitting in here. I have not put the drain in it yet. We will cover that, but it's just sitting here. I am square against this wall. Of course, I've got this stud shimmed in, and I've got this stud screwed in with 2 screws where I want it, where I'm nice and square. However, the problem is this 2x4 and this 2x4 stick out too far. So my options are to trim some off of them or pull my shower base out some more. I don't want to pull it out some more because one, I've already cut the hole for my drain, and it's going to be a little snug on this far side anyway. I may have to trim it some to get the body of the drain to fit in. I'll find that out here in a little bit. So I don't really want to bump it out this way any more than what it already is. So I'm going to go get my belt sander and I am going to knock these two studs down from where I have the squiggly lines drawn on them, and that should gain me what I need. Everything else clears just fine, just those two studs. I pulled the shower base back out to get those 2x4s lined up. I've got it all done, vacuumed up, ready to go. But I want to go ahead and get the drain installed. The instructions that I found online for installing this shower base state to follow the instructions for the drain that you're installing. However, the drain came with the shower base and there's no instructions. So I am not going to use silicone like some people do, mostly because this is a steel porcelain coated shower base. However, the drain is plastic or PVC, but I'm going to be using Plumers Putty. So we have the lock nut that screws on from the bottom side and seals everything up. We have the fiber washer and we have the rubber washer. Both of these are needed. The fiber washer goes on top of the rubber washer and then the nut. And the fiber washer keeps that rubber washer from pinching out when you tighten things up. We don't need to tighten this any more than hand tight. Let's get some Plumers Putty on here. Plumers Putty has been around for years, and it is a lot like Silly Putty, a little firmer than that, and it's a pretty amazing type material. I'm just going to pull out a hunk about like that, and we're going to roll it into a rope. So basically we're just going to start forming it into a rope, and then we'll just roll it in our hands. I don't need this to be really big, and it doesn't have to be one piece. So if you break it in half, it doesn't matter. It'll seal right back together. I don't need this to be huge. I just need it to be about that big around. I do need it to be bigger than that, so I'll put those back together and roll them a little bit over here. Pinch it a little bit. So I'm kind of liking what I got right here. So we'll just lay that right around the base of this drain, and push it up into the corners a little bit so that you get a good seal. If there's any areas that you feel like are too thin, you can push a little bit more in there or overlap it, like what I'm going to do in this case, because I think this area right here could use just a little more, so I'm going to overlap it. Now I'm just going to kind of push it into place. Something like that is what we're going to have when we're done. Now we're ready to install this drain. Now, I will pull this grate off in a minute, but for right now, because the hole is square, I want to make sure that I've got the drain set right as I tighten the nut. So from this side, I'm just going to set it in here and push it into place. Make sure that it's square and that it looks good. Then from the back side, we're going to install the rubber washer first. Then we're going to install the felt washer, and then the lock nut. And the lock nut here is adapted down for 2-inch PVC pipe. And now you can get a good look to it, the foam pad that I was talking about that the shower base comes with, and the reason why no mortar bed is needed. It has this styrofoam pad down here that is going to make this sit nice and level. Just want to make sure my grate's nice and square. I feel it moving a little bit. Now as that plumber's putty kind of squishes out and makes it seal, the nut will loosen a little more. So you want to give it a second and then you can turn it a little more. Okay, my grate's looking pretty good. It wants to stay in place now. That's nice. We'll just wait a minute and give it a couple more snugs. Check our drain. Looking good. See, I'm tightening this about as tight as I can get it. And then if you just wait a minute, that putty will just keep kind of squeezing out. And that's what creates such an amazing seal. And you want to get this as tight as you can. You don't want to come back and find it a little bit loose because you will have a leak. Now I can say if this was a plastic base and a plastic fitting, I would use 100% silicone instead of plumber's putty for this seal. I think that's about as tight as we're going to get it, but I will check that again in about 10 minutes here and make sure. Now that I've got it in there and it's nice and snug, I've got a lot of squeeze out underneath my drain cover here. So we're going to take the drain cover off. And there's our squeeze out. Now to deal with the squeeze out is simple enough. We're just going to come in here with our finger and remove it just like that. Push it in there nice and tight. Try and remove any excess that's sticking out. And there we have it. I'll take a damp paper towel in a minute here and just clean any residue off. This is what we removed, nothing as compared to what we put on. So we have a nice seal now. This piece we'll just put back in here, use it for a later date. So now that I've got these two studs trimmed out of my way, using my straight edge, I am sitting pretty. Nothing's holding me away from the stud I sistered on, It's touching or real close to touching, but I'm in perfect shape here. So I am going to go get the rest of them ready. Now, according to the instructions with the shower base, I have to put a stringer, a 2x4 stringer down here at the bottom. And so I need to get all of these in so I can put that stringer on, and then I can set the base for the final time. So we're close. And when I bring it in, I may have to adjust that drain opening slightly, I'm not sure. So we'll see when it gets in here. But I am going to cut the others. I'm going to put 3 more in. And of course they'll be broken because of this window, which is fine. And then I will be setting all of them into place using this straight edge across the 2 that I already have in place. I'm going to get them done and then we'll get this base in. All the studs I sistered on are now secure. I put these I put these Sharpie marks on here just so you can see which ones I put in, and you can see it's pretty obvious here how proud we are of what was there, and the same thing under here. It gets better as the wall goes down, so we're only slightly proud here and here, and at the top we are not bad at all. It gets better as it goes, but what we have now is a nice plumb flat wall. So as you can see, we are right between the lines, and there's the gap from what used to be to what is. So we are ready to go on this wall. Also, I want to address down here because I notched my 2x4s out for the shower base to sit in, so that when I put my backer board on, that it is going to cover over the flange. There'll be a mini series of this area going together, and I will address that further then and why. I am ready to get the shower base set in here and secured. This will be the final install on it, other than getting these outside walls done. One particular issue that I have here is that this room is about 5/8 of an inch too wide. The people that remodeled it in the past remedied that with 2 layers of drywall on these outside walls. No moisture barrier back here. It's pretty horrible what they did. We're going to do it by shimming the studs out. We're going to sister some on and move the studs out that way. You can also, what I did here, you could use shims to do this by ripping a 2x4. The reason that I didn't do that is because they're on an angle. Track saw, you can maybe get 2 cuts off of a 2x4 and then you throw the rest away. Table saw, very difficult to cut a tapered shim like that unless you basically freehand it, and I'm not doing that with my table saw. So this was the best option for me, to just sister these on and get this wall nice, plumb, straight, flat. This wall is in really good shape now. I have the instructions that Mansfield supplied with, they didn't supply it with the tub. I had to search for several hours on the internet to find this, and they tell you to attach it to the wall with a nail and a washer, or a screw and a washer, over the top edge of the flange. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use a stainless steel screw and a stainless steel washer. They also tell you to put a stringer along the bottom of the wall here, and they show you a nice little diagram of it. They do not give you any dimensions. So I've measured and determined that that needs to be at 4 inches. So I'm pretty sure we're good, but it doesn't tell me that this foam pad may squish down a little bit, that styrofoam pad, if it's got any compression to it or any of that stuff. So we're going to set it in here with this stringer at 4 inches and see what we get. That is the stringer that I'm speaking of right there. That's just screwed on to the back wall, and the back side of the shower base rests on that. So we're going to get it in here and see. I know that side was 4 inches. That side's true. I didn't have to put hardly any mud there at all. So I measured it out 4 inches there. Then I leveled it and fastened it back here on this far side over here. So the drain may be an issue for me. I might have to open that hole up a little bit. I'm not sure. It's going to be, this space is too tight for me to get the camera in here and set that base in. So I'll show you once I get it in here and what it looks like. I've got the shower base in. I did not have to open up the drain hole, which is awesome. It's really close, but it fell down in there, so I am a happy man. I got one screw in right there, and this is what I'm using, just a stainless steel washer and a stainless steel wood screw, and I'm putting them only on the 2x4s that I sistered on, or the ones with the dotted lines on them. So I've only got that one in. As you can see, I'm nice and level, and over here I'm nice and level. I couldn't be happier with what we got going on at this point in time. I am going to get the rest of these screws in on that back flange, and then I can start setting everything else up. So as you can see, I have a 5/8 of an inch gap between those two studs right there. So when I sister my new ones on, I'm going to take care of that 5/8 of an inch, and then I will also have a little bit of an overhang so that when I put my hardy backer board on, it comes down over the top of this, and I'll set it a 1/4 inch off the bottom. And we're going to do a separate video on installing the backer board, sealing the seams and waterproofing it. Will all be a separate video. So we're going to build a niche right here. That will be a separate video. We're going to install the shower valve right here. That will be a separate video. So make sure to watch for these other videos, and I'm going to break it down to where you can get your questions answered by watching one shorter video instead of making this like a 3-hour long video that no one wants to watch. I've got all 5 of my screws in down along on the flange. Now I still have to I have to sister a stud here, I have to sister a stud here, and then I'm going to put 2 studs right off of the corner there. One for my drywall to start on, and one for my James Hardy backer board to end on. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. And once I get them in, I'll put the same stainless steel screws and washers in. The only difference is that I cut a 1/4 inch notch in these 2x4s I sistered on at the bottom, so that when I put my backer board on, I can come down over this flange. The area here is smaller, so I will only be using a 3/16 notch out there to come down over, because I don't want my backer board, my tile, to wind up right at that curve that's in the tub itself. I want that to be set back of it, at least where I have the reveal of the curve, so that'll be a little bit lighter. The only other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go under the house, and I'm going to take white silicone, and I'm going to seal that entire drain area from the crawl space, so that there's not enough room for a mouse or anything like that to get up in the styrofoam, eat it up, and cause me a whole bunch of problems later. So that's going to get sealed up. Alright guys, that's all we got for this time. This shower base is installed. Join me next time when we build the niche in this back wall right here. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider doing so. And remember to always respect the power of your power tools. We'll see you.